I became an exorcist not by choice, but by calling. And it was an evolving way in which I got interested. As a young man out of university, I traveled internationally, and I saw in Eastern cultures a lot of spirit possession ceremonies, and the fact that those kind of cultures are much more open to this. I came back to America wondering, does possession and exorcism exist in America? And back then there was not much talk about this sort of thing. It was about that time that I became a Christian and felt a call to ministry. But even before I went into full-time ministry, people would then start coming to me with problems. As they told me about their problems, demons would begin to speak through their bodies. I recognized this wasn't happening to anyone else, and that there was something special that I'd been gifted with. Many people want to know, what's the most dramatic exorcism? And I really can't nail it down to one. After 15,000 documented cases of exorcism, it's hard to find just one. But I would say those in which there have been an incredible amount of complex issues. I have one particular individual that I've spent more than 50 exorcism sessions with, ranging from 2 to 4 hours each. The others that come to mind as being unusual are ones in which there's been extreme violence, in which I've been at risk. I've had my ribs broken, picked up and thrown across the room a few times. I suppose the instances of materializations, levitation, and supernatural strength stand out in my mind. The movie The Devil Inside is the closest that Hollywood has come to getting it right in terms of what a real exorcism is. And it's one of the things I like about this movie from my standpoint. There's a lot of dialogue in which they discuss exorcism, how it happens, and all the ramifications of it. I think the thing that really got me interested was the discussion of the scientific analysis of the dilation of the pupils. You know, it's one of the things that we tell people to watch for when we train them to do an exorcism, and we've trained thousands of people worldwide. Very often the pupil changes color, but it always dilates. It's a very clear indication of the presence of an evil spirit. And in the movie, they get that down to an exact science, and there's a great scene in which they got the camera on this woman's eyes as the pupils are dilated. That's not Hollywood. That's real. There's always a danger of demonic transference. I was actually quite surprised that the subject was brought up in this film, because it's something you have to deal with. When you are concluding an exorcism, you're at the point of expulsion of the evil spirit. It often begins to bargain. I've even had them ask, can I come into you? Which is pretty absurd. But they will say, well, can I go into that person over there? Or can I go somewhere else? And of course, what we learn is that in advance, in most cases, we have to tell the evil spirit, now, you will only go where we tell you to go under the circumstances that we tell you to leave. Because sometimes they try to jump out early, so to speak, and get into somebody else. And if there's a willing recipient somewhere nearby, it can be a very dangerous thing. When you speak of the viewpoint that the church has in exorcism, you have to distinguish between the Roman Catholic Church and Protestant churches, or those of non-liturgical persuasions. Now, the Roman Catholic Church has an official position that basically says it's rare, not at all common, seldom seen. I disagree strongly with that. From my perspective, as a non-Catholic Protestant exorcist, it's quite common. It happens all the time. With me, virtually 7 days a week, I am doing exorcisms and cannot meet the need. Now, I think the church may say that simply because it's not adequately equipped to meet the need and knows that, or it may genuinely believe that. I can tell you that priests in the Catholic Church that I have talked with know that it's not rare and it's not common. But at least they acknowledge the existence of it, and the Pope himself has said there needs to be an exorcist in every diocese. One of the things I like about the film The Devil Inside is it juxtaposes this never-ending argument of, is it supernatural or is it psychological? And they get into that. And that's the reality of what you deal with in every single exorcism. The truth is, it's not hard to tell the difference. Now, when we train people to be exorcists, we teach them about dissociative identity disorder, borderline, psychosis, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and a number of mental health issues so that they know the symptoms to look for. And going into an exorcism, normally we profile the person very carefully. So, for example, if somebody says, I'm certified schizophrenic, here are the medications that I'm on, I'm under the treatment of a therapist, then they don't need an exorcism. They obviously have a mental health issue. But sometimes going into it, we just don't know. They haven't seen a therapist, but it's not hard to tell the difference. And the real key is this. Back to the movie, the eyes. And I tell people, once you've done an actual exorcism and you've looked into the heart of hell, you've stared into the face of real evil, there's something we call that look. You never forget it.